All right. So we're dealing with June 25, variant 23, question 3B. Um, इसका जो part A है, let me just show you part A also. Part A was about public goods and private goods. It's about type of goods. And they're asking, consider to an extent to which the beach can be classified as a public good. So we have to argue from non-excludable and non-rivalry point of view, say, that whether beach is excludable or not, and under what circumstances can it actually become excludable or rivalry. ठीक है? But then the second part is this, part B. Assess whether the subsidy is likely to be the best method to increase the consumption of merit goods. Your answer is broken down into two parts, and we're looking at level 1, level 2, and level 3. To qualify for level 3, you must talk about how subsidy can increase the consumption, how subsidies might fail in increasing consumption, and then you must talk about alternative. How many alternatives? Well, one is enough, but I always recommend that go for at least two more alternatives. तो उससे क्या होगा कि at least, if you're missing out on some points ऊपर सब्सिडी की expansion के अंदर, so maybe the alternative can help you get an extra ticks and take you to level 3. And I'll talk about what do I mean by that. So assess whether subsidy is likely to be the best method to increase the consumption of merit goods. Now, is there mark for definitions and all? Because पहले part के अंदर तो public goods और उसके point of view से सारी बात थी part A के अंदर, तो part B के अंदर वो कोई terminologies reuse नहीं हो रही हैं. In my personal opinion, you should always spend a few lines on giving their definitions. You should always do that, in my opinion. You never know कि उसका वो mark allot कर भी दें. Usually they don't have any allocation for it. तो मैं क्या करूंगा इसके लिए? First thing is I would like to expand on subsidy. What are subsidies? So I would like to define subsidy. When we are defining subsidy, all we are saying is that it's sort of like a financial support or like financial incentive, you know, given by government through collection of taxes, through collection of taxes to increase affordability. I think you should remember this. You can learn this line. This is a fantastic definition. It is taking a lot of elements. Number one, financial support. Number two, government is, you know, financing it through taxation. And one is affordability. I think we're talking about a lot of things here. Uh, but this is just for the definition, right? I'm not saying कि ये पूरा subsidy का element खत्म हो गया है. Later on, I'm going to talk about how it reduces the cost of production, increases the supply, lowers the price. Everything's going to come later. Abhi, I just want to make sure कि, it's subsidy की मैं एक reasonable definition दे दूं. And then you should, I think, also define after subsidy, you should also define uh, merit good. What is merit good? हमारे course के अंदर honestly merit good की बहुत ही limited definition required है. The maximum definition that is required in AS levels is that merit goods are underconsumed, yeah, underconsumed due to information failure, okay, or lack of information, or people not knowing enough about the good and the true benefit of the merit goods. This is the maximum definition. अगर इसको और थोड़ा सा करना है तो government finds these goods to be desirable. I think in types of goods का lecture देखोगे ना उसके अंदर we've talked about all of this. Desirable and wants to increase their consumption. Wants to increase their consumption. I don't think there is any other explanation that is required in this because there's nothing more. You can't talk about positive external. You should not talk about positive externalities. You can't talk about market failures. ये सब A2 के अंदर चली गई हैं बातें. But coming to the question, is it the best method to increase the consumption? Well, the first thing, let's talk
Can't
about
use anything
how.
from O-level.
Yes, because O level, every kid has not done O levels, who is doing AS. So then, uh, if you've done it and you're writing, it will not be mentioned in your marking scheme anyways, and there is no mark for it anyway. So if you want to use it for, because you know it, that's fine, but there's no grade for it. The maximum requirement is this. This is maximum we teach. This is the maximum जो हमने जितने भी questions किए हैं types of goods के अंदर about merit, demerit, public goods and all. We just did this basic stuff, and that's good enough. You don't need to go into that complications because especially if you're not using like the right words to explain those, then you're confusing the examiner also. So we want to avoid that as well.
What about
Okay.
assumed knowledge?
What knowledge?
Assumed knowledge.
Yeah, but that it's not graded. So अगर आप कर रहे हो तो ठीक है. There's no harm in it. I'm just saying there's no harm in it, but just don't complex things so much के like I can remember वही तुम्हारा जो essay के अंदर which I read in the first paragraph, uh, it made things too complex for me because then it raises the question that if you're using these words, then how clear are you in their definitions and meanings? So you need to expand on those things as well, then with clarity. Uh, तो फिर मैं ये नहीं assume कर सकता कि अगर तुमने positive externality का word डाला है तो you know exactly what it means. I need more on it. That what do you mean by positive externality? Then you need to tell me what is externality, by the way. So then you need to tell me that externality is, it's the third party effect or it's the spillover that happens when somebody consumes something. So, we're going sidetracked. Come back to the question. The question is simple. कि सब्सिडी से मेरिट गुड्स की कंजम्पशन इंक्रीज होती है कि नहीं होती है. हमने बता दिया मेरिट गुड्स अंडर कंज्यूम्ड है. सोसाइटी उसकी इंफॉर्मेशन फेलियर है. सोसाइटी डज नॉट realize the true benefit of it, but that's good enough. बाकी तुम लिखना चाहते हो, you write it. There's no harm in it. But I'm just saying it's not going to contribute towards your marks in any way. All right, moving on. Then when we say subsidies, subsidy ko, then you have to explain exactly. Now, you have to write, must है, कि subsidy मिलने से cost of production. If I don't read this word, problem है. Cost of production falls. Supply increases. Supply curve, even though they haven't asked for the diagram, but I would like you to suggest here, don't make the diagram, but at least just mention it. Supply curve shifts to the right. And lowers the price. This results in increase in consumption of merit goods. Now, I've closed the point खास तौर पे for the question because question ने बोला कि क्या सब्सिडीज जो है वो इंक्रीज कंजम्पशन कर सकती है मेरिट गुड की। मैंने कहा जी कंजम्पशन को ही इंक्रीज कर सकती है because when prices fall down, in fact I should have lowers the price and increases affordability, although मैंने उस पे मार्क दे ही देना था वैसे भी, lowers the price and increases quantity demanded or something along that line. And that's good enough. There's not much that I can talk about. There is something that you can add over here if you want, which is कि increase थोड़ा सा आएगा कि ज्यादा आएगा। I'm thinking कि मेरे लिए ज्यादा evaluative point ज्यादा अच्छा है। लेकिन if a merit good is elastic or if a merit good is inelastic. So if you want, you can add that in a very एक shortcut तरीके से, but making sure कि shortcut के अंदर भी clear example mention हुई हो. For example, like if I say that if the merit good is elastic, ये मुझे ज्यादा वैसे evaluative लग रहा है, but चलो कोई बात नहीं. If merit good is elastic, price elastic, then a small fall in price will lead to a large proportionate increase in quantity demand, and then the counter of this, that however, if the PED is inelastic, then even a large fall in price will only cause a small proportionate increase in quantity demanded. I think that's a reasonable point to put there just for volume of the thing. But remember, इसके बगैर भी काम हो जाता है ये। अच्छा, वैसे तो ज्यादा ये मुझे पैराग्राफ इवैल्यूएशन में ज्यादा अच्छा लगा। चलिए, उसके बाद फर्दर you need to do a counter that how subsidy might not be able to increase the uh, consumption. तो उसके लिए then you have to do the whole counter argument. I think some of the ones जो limitations के अंदर apply होती है, one is your opportunity cost. Okay, one is the whole idea of opportunity cost, that this fund could have been used somewhere else. Yeah, लेकिन they sometimes they might accept this point, sometimes they might not accept this point. You know why? Because the question is about how subsidy will enable you to increase consumption. तो अब ये opportunity subsidy की opportunity cost है, fine. But how is it connecting to the question के the quantity might not increase? उससे मेरा connection नहीं बन रहा opportunity cost का. But still we'll put it out there anyways that there is an opportunity cost, that funds could have been used somewhere else, in case of like healthcare, uh, okay, healthcare भी तो merit ही है, so then we have to come up with something else, maybe like capital goods or public goods, so that if you're lacking that, then that can be a problem. जो असल जो factors हो सकते हैं, that could be government budget constraint. This one is more of a thing that government does not have the money to give for subsidies. So therefore, they will not be able to give the subsidy, and supply curve will not shift to the right, and they won't be able to increase the supply of the merit goods or consumption of the merit goods. So budget constraint is more, in my opinion, of a relevant one. फिर एक होता है, in my opinion, one thing is it is difficult to set correct subsidy level. We saw this in your previous answer also, and I think I did give you mark for it also. That अब आप subsidy दे रहे हो, how much subsidy is required? Are we giving too much? Are we giving too less? If we're not giving enough, then we're not able to make a reasonable supply increase. Like for example, वही mass transit के system में, या if you talk about in terms of Karachi system, you spend a lot of money subsidizing the red bus network and all. Okay, fine, you did that. It's operating on certain routes. But from a consumer's point of view, the consumer is thinking कि ठीक है, मैं अपने घर से निकला and I reached the red bus platform wherever it is, and I reach another part of the city somewhere. Now, once I get off the bus, how am I supposed to reach to the office or the factory, which is another like half a kilometer or 1 kilometer away? Do I have an alternative? Do I have that whole network available? कि मैं, so the person says, yeah, it's better that I use my own transport, ताकि मैं point A से point B पे exactly जा सकता हूँ. So if the government is not giving enough money that your system is properly created, then the whole merit का system fail हो जाएगा. Again, let's talk about in terms of education. If in Pakistan the government does not have enough reasonable amount of money available, and they haven't set a reasonable or given a proper amount of subsidy to the schooling system, तो schooling system ने buildings बना ली लेकिन अच्छे teachers नहीं hire कर सकते. What's the point? उसकी effectiveness is not going to improve because people are not going to go to a school which has good building but not good education. So that limitation can actually become problem. One of the points you also mentioned was about inefficiency about the firms. Like subsidies makes firms inefficient if firms become dependent. Okay, now if the firms become dependent, they're not going to innovate, like you said also, and they might not put in their own money. They might just use government's money, and really they're not increasing the supply. If subsidy was not given, they would have used their own funds, they would have borrowed, they would have worked efficiently, tried to increase productivity, increase the supply. But now that they are getting subsidy, they're not going to try and be efficient also. They might not do labor training and all. So, us point of view, say they might not be able to increase the supply and increase the consumption. Do you see? Every single point you need to close. Okay, will it increase the consumption or not? Checking in November, अभी जो मैं papers देख रहा हूँ, उसके अंदर honestly, the point is correct, but if it is not connecting to the question's requirement, mark देने में थोड़ा सा reluctance हो रही है. For example, you're going to be doing this later on, but यही वाली बात. If the kid is writing that, you know what, subsidy मिलने से क्या होगा, supply curve right पे जाएगा, prices गिर जाएंगी, quantity बढ़ जाएगी. Now, okay, fine, quantity बढ़ जाएगी, equilibrium quantity बढ़ जाएगी, but if the question is about के will it increase the consumption, quantity बढ़ जाएगी, it's very explanatory, but if you're not writing के and therefore the consumption will increase, or maybe the question was about कि सब्सिडी मिलने से क्या फार्मर्स की इनकम स्टेबलाइज हो जाएगी, एंड यू आर टेलिंग मी सब्सिडी मिलने से सप्लाई बढ़ जाएगी, क्वांटिटी ज्यादा सेल हो जाएगी. नाउ यू हैवंट रियली आंसर्ड मी द क्वेश्चन. द क्वेश्चन इज क्या फार्मर्स की इनकम बढ़ जाएगी? Now you're saying कि भाई obviously बात है सब्सिडी मिल रही है financial amount of money is coming to them prices are falling more quantity is selling तो obviously you mean के incomes भी rise करेंगी but if you're not mentioning that the point is not complete you need to complete the point based on the question and that's what I'm trying to do in every single point that's why I have slight reservation on the first point कि opportunity cost तो होती है of using the subsidy but that is impacting other goods and services उसका अभी मेरे merit से क्या ताल्लुक है ठीक now to counter argue this question we need to it's a must that you give an alternative अब alternative के अंदर we want to talk about merit good की consumption बढ़ानी है तो what other alternatives do we have to encourage its consumption so some alternatives के अंदर I personally prefer this one is a must that you talk about alternative के अंदर it is knowledge alternative policy के अंदर you must talk about uh, increasing consumer knowledge or basically reducing information failure अब इसको समझाओगे कैसे what is a must in order to get this? You can tell me. You can say something like, okay, so the problem is merit goods ke andar there is information failure. People do not realize the true benefit of the good. So let's do advertisement and campaigns, and so people will consume more. That's incomplete, by the way. Might not get the mark. You're saying let's do campaigns and advertisements regarding the benefits of merit goods. How will it work? तो इसके लिए it is a must that in your answer I see that जब लोगों का information failure now people are aware of benefit, demand will increase and shift the demand curve to the right. You don't mention this, you don't get the point. That how will it have an effect? Will shift the demand curve to the right and therefore increase consumption. Now the point is complete and therefore increase consumption. Now इसका counter कर लो because remember alternative policy का बस एक आपने how does it affect? Give counter arguments. There are plenty of counter arguments for it. So one of the counter arguments we can make in this instance is you can talk about uh, from the limitations point of view, limitations. One of the things they do accept is that you can say that the policy basically failed. Number one, it takes time for people to change behavior. So therefore, the demand might not fall. Demand might not rise so quickly. It will take time. People might ignore the information. Okay? They just feel that, it's not relevant. Or your campaign not designed effectively to reach everyone. you know, poorly designed. अब
Why do you
देखो,
have to talk about the limitations
yeah,
of alternatives?
यार मेरे ख्याल में तो करना चाहिए because I do look for it. When I'm checking the paper, I do look for because if we're saying is subsidy is the best or not, I need to talk about subsidy for against, then I should talk about for and against of an alternative as well. मेरे ख्याल में हो सकता है कि certain marking schemes के अंदर they do write it, maybe they don't write it. I feel that sometimes they do expect you to write it, sometimes they don't expect you to write it. So इधर इन्होंने क्या लिखा है? An explanation of alternative methods like information, but analysis must focus on how the methods would increase the consumption of merit. इसके अंदर इन्होंने नहीं लिखा हुआ कि उसका काउंटर करना जरूरी है. Then level 3 response should consider alternative policies, concepts, and will be balanced. बैलेंस का मतलब क्या हुआ? मेरी नजर में बैलेंस का मतलब ये हुआ दैट आपने दोनों साइड्स के प्रोज और कॉन्स को देखे, ऑफर्ड एंड एक्यूरेट. या सो इसके अंदर तो आई डोंट सी दैट दे आर टॉकिंग अबाउट स्पेसिफिकली आस्किंग फॉर एन ऑल्टरनेटिव. आई वुड रिकमेंड यू कि आप जरूर लिखें, थोड़ा सा लिखें, लेकिन लिखें जरूर. आई एम चेकिंग पेपर्स इन नवंबर एंड आई एम लुकिंग फॉर इट ऑल्टरनेटिव. So this is how I will grade. Subsidies, you talk about how it affects up to 2 marks. If you did a long explanation of subsidy, जैसे मैंने अभी इसमें elastic inelastic किया था, up to 3 marks I'll give you. Because it's a well explained 3 mark is how subsidy will increase consumption of merit. Level 2 के लिए you need to have a counter argument. So you do a counter argument. You write subsidy ke alternatives. I will give you up to 4 to 5 marks. 5 marks if it's a well-written answer. I'll give you up to 5 marks. If you give me an alternative policy, I'll give you up to 6 to 7 marks. How alternative can increase consumption. But for your eighth mark, 7 to or 8th mark, I would want a counter argument. No matter how small it is, but I would want it. That it might not be also, it might not actually be able to do it. Like I said in the beginning of this essay, that sometimes, a second alternative policy can work also, is because कि अगर आपने ऊपर के ये points, you just wrote 1 point over here, तो मैंने एक टिक आपको इधर दे दिया, एक आपने बेसिक सा समझाया, हाउ सब्सिडीज विल वर्क, लोअर कॉस्ट, सप्लाई इंक्रीजेस, लोअर प्राइसेस, एक टिक यहाँ लगाया, तो यू हैव 1 mark हियर, यू हैव 1 mark हियर. You've done the counter, but I only have 2 marks for you right now. फिर उसके बाद I came to an alternative, आपने alternative के अंदर ये लिखा, तो I gave you another tick on this, 3 marks हो गए. फिर आपने counter लिख लिया, I'm saying चलो 4 mark हो गया. You're doing everything. But the thing is your points needs to be enough also, so for me to have give you enough ticks also. तो उसके लिए sometimes it might come in handy कि आपने एक एक्स्ट्रा ऑल्टरनेटिव को अगर एक्सप्लेन किया हुआ है मेरिट के केस के अंदर. फॉर एग्जांपल वन ऑफ द थिंग्स दैट कैन इंक्रीज ऑल्टरनेटिव पॉलिसी इज गवर्नमेंट की डायरेक्ट प्रोविजनिंग. नाउ व्हाट इज डायरेक्ट provisioning? Direct provisioning is when the government produces themselves, right? The government produces themselves and directly provides the good, merit good to the public, and they can provide it at lower prices, free of cost. वो सब आपकी मर्जी है, but at least they do make it. So that would qualify for, one of those how it affects. So I give you another tick over here, and then you can suggest a limitation that again is government might not have the budget, government might not have enough funds. Sorry, वो एक ही बात है. The government might not have the expertise to run it in a sustainable manner. There might be bureaucracy issues, you know. So budget issue, I think, is a reasonable one. And then you can make your counter argument. अच्छा, इसके अंदर merit goods के अंदर one of the there are a lot of policies you can who do like government into regulations and all also. So there are plenty of policies. Maximum price भी डाल सकते हो actually, but that would be definitely not a good policy to follow. Ab, from the conclusion या evaluation point of view, जब हमने सब्सिडी की बात की तो द क्वेश्चन इज अबाउट वेदर सब्सिडी इज द बेस्ट और नॉट. ओके, सो हम ये बात जरूर कर सकते हैं. आई थिंक वही जो हमने बात ऊपर भी की थी इवैल्यूएशन, सॉरी, इलास्टिसिटी वाली. सो समथिंग लाइक subsidy would be a good policy if the demand for the merit good is elastic, so it will have a significantly large increase. However, because it was inelastic, so it would have a lesser effect, right? So एक ये बात आप कर सकते हो. Then you can also talk about कि सब्सिडी अगर आप मेरिट गुड को देने चाह रहे हो तो क्या वो मेरिट गुड बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है सोसाइटी के लिए इस वक्त, या उसकी सिवियरिटी ऑफ द शॉर्टेज ऑफ इट के government should prioritize over the other things, so then definitely you should subsidize it if you feel that you know what they are very underproduced. So करना चाहिए. But we also know कि subsidy के अंदर you have an issue which is budget constraint. अगर society के पास है, आपकी government के पास budget नहीं है, so then subsidy is obviously not the best possible way for you. Then you think of an alternative. An alternative could be in terms of in that scenario that if you don't have enough budget, low income economy के अंदर, so instead of providing a lot of subsidy or instead of providing too much direct intervention, you can maybe give some subsidy to the private sector or maybe reduce the indirect taxes on the private sector so that they can increase their supply and try to lower the price and provide the good. So somehow you need to talk about an alternative as well, and giving your final evaluation that it depends on, the whole society ka thing. So I feel that is how you would actually want to go. But the question, I think I will look out if I can find more marking scheme कि वो जो alternative है, alternative का counter argument, should you be doing it or not? मेरे ख्याल में इनफैक्ट एक क्वेश्चन है, आई थिंक डीमेरिट के ऊपर, um, in this year only. I might have to look for it. Take a second, though. I'll just look for it quickly. Yeah, the first one. Yeah, this question. This is the next one we want to deal with. Uh, yeah, if you look at this one for a second, just to clear the thing, I think इसमें है कि नहीं है, I'll just very quickly go over it.